So, I want to tell you a story. It's a story you've probably never heard, but it's got everything: art, rebellion, a culture war, and it brings together some of the most famous and infamous people of the 20th century. This is Chapter 1. It all kicks off with a crisis, an invasion, a full on police raid that's about to send absolute shockwaves through the art world. And at the heart of it all, one single explosive word: obscene. An accusation so powerful it could bring an entire empire crashing down. But this was way more than just a raid. It was a battle line, drawn right in the sand. You had the old guard, the establishment, on one side, and on the other, this vibrant new wave of artists and culture. And right in the middle of this whole firestorm was one of the most famous men on the entire planet. So yeah, how does that happen? How do a few drawings by a Beatle end up triggering a raid by London's Vice Squad, the Dirty Squad? Well, the answer isn't some simple headline. It's the beginning of a much bigger story about what happens when art, money, and rebellion all collide. To really get this whole thing, we have to treat it like a Fluxus box. It was this cool art concept from back then, basically a box filled with what looks like random junk. But when you start pulling things out, a story takes shape. That's what this whole series is. And today, we're pulling out the very first piece. And, our story doesn't actually start in swinging London. Nope. We have to go back a few years to a totally different world, with two young students just dreaming of a way out. The year is 1962. The place? Detroit. The Motor City. You can just feel it, right? The hum of the assembly lines, the brand new sounds of Motown records. But there's also this pressure building, a feeling that things are about to change. And that's where we meet Eugene and Barbara Schuster. They're these brilliant, ambitious students at Wayne State University, and they have huge dreams. But there's this shadow hanging over everything: the Vietnam draft. For Eugene, one bad grade wasn't just a mark on a transcript, it could literally mean getting shipped off to war. Their only way out? A super prestigious Fulbright scholarship to study art history in London. This wasn't just an academic opportunity, it was a lifeline. And talk about a culture shock. They went from the heart of the American auto industry and the sound of Motown to this gray, post-war London steeped in tradition. They literally traded the boom of mid-century America for the ancient, dusty halls of the Warburg Institute. It was a whole new world. But Eugene wasn't going to be a quiet academic for long. See, he had an idea. A hustle, really, and it was about to change his life forever and put him on a collision course with the entire art establishment. And here's the crazy part. Eugene was the real deal. He was studying under E.H. Gombrich, who was like a total rock star in the art history world. The safe, respectable, academic path was laid out right in front of him. But Eugene saw something else, an opportunity that was way more about the market than the museum. So here was his hustle. It was brilliant. Eugene noticed that at book fairs, these beautiful old art books were super undervalued, but the prints inside them, those were worth a lot. So he started buying the books, carefully slicing out the individual plates and selling them one by one. He basically found a loophole in the art market and turned it into a booming business. And Eugene's timing, it was absolutely perfect. While his little business was starting to take off, the world around him was just exploding. That quiet, gray London was bursting into Technicolor. This was the birth of swinging London, and Eugene's new gallery was about to be right in the middle of the hurricane. You have to remember, the late 60s were a total pressure cooker. Back in Eugene's hometown, Detroit was literally on fire with riots. In London, people were in the streets protesting the Vietnam War. And then, in the middle of all this chaos, we land on the moon. It felt like anything was possible. A new age was dawning, and art was right there on the front lines. And at the absolute epicenter of this earthquake, John Lennon and Yoko Ono. They were morphing from pop stars into these radical activists, and they were using their insane level of fame as a tool. Take bagism. It was this idea where they do interviews from inside a giant bag, so you couldn't see them. It was their way of taking a shot at prejudice. It was playful, it was weird, and it was perfectly in step with the times. Okay, so this is it. This is where all the threads of our story finally come together. Eugene, the hustler from Detroit, and John Lennon, the global pop icon, are about to collide. And the explosion is going to be an art exhibition that will completely scandalize the British establishment. And this gives you a great idea of the kind of art they were making. This is Yoko's all-white chessboard. The point isn't to win. The point is to try and remember where your pieces are, to cooperate, to realize that underneath it all, both sides are really the same. Their art was about ideas, it was challenging, and it was deeply, deeply personal. So, January 1970, Eugene's London Arts Gallery hosts the world premiere of Bag One. And Bag One is this portfolio of lithographs that John Lennon drew of his wedding and honeymoon with Yoko. They were tender, they were intimate, and they were very, very erotic. For the first time ever, a Beatle was pulling back the curtain and showing the whole world what happened behind closed doors.
And the public? Oh, they were not ready. This quote is from an actual police statement made by a housewife named Nancy Creer. She was so shocked by the drawings that she said she felt physically sick and ran right to the police. This wasn't just an art show anymore. This was the match that lit the fuse.
Now, that police raid wasn't the end of the story, not even close. In fact, for our series, it's really just the beginning. It's the moment that sets off this huge, sprawling story about the modern art world.
I mean, think about it. The Bag One scandal has it all. It's the classic battle between art and censorship. It's the counterculture versus the establishment. And it's this fascinating, tangled mess of commerce and rebellion, how the act of rebelling itself becomes something you can sell.
Which brings us right back to our flux box. This whole story, the raid, Lennon, Eugene, it's just the first thing we've pulled out. In our next installments, we're going to dig deeper. We'll get into the world of Peter Max and psychedelic art, unbelievable forgeries, high-stakes scams. There's even a Swami involved. We're just getting started. Because that's the question at the heart of this whole thing, isn't it? What really happens at that explosive intersection of art, money, and rebellion? As you're going to see, it's a place where the line between a masterpiece and a major crime can get awfully blurry.